Hey, folks. Good to see everybody.
Hey, Kelly. Christine, we started recording, so we're ready to go when you are.
Perfect. Good day, everyone. I'd like to bring the Fire Service Membership Council meeting of November 16th to order. I'm going to ask Carl to do a roll call of governing committee members, but just before that, I just wanted to have a special welcome to Michael McShane. He is with the City of Dover Fire and Rescue in Dover, New Hampshire. He is the new IFC New England representative. So welcome, Michael. I know you had some prior commitments. So we appreciate the time that you have to give us today before you have to go out and fulfill those commitments. So again, welcome. And with that, Carl, if you can do a roll call, please.
All right. Thanks. I'm still letting them in the lobby here too. Usually I got Andy King backing me up on this, so it's all good. Okay, so Madam Chair, I've got you. Tim Diehl, I know, is on. He's at the train station and monitoring. Brian Adams, I see you. Rick Boisfort is excused today. He's got a training activity that he's at, so he emailed in. Chief Collins, are you with us from California? Chief Collins. Okay, Marshal Desrochers is actually out for his daughter's wedding this week. So he is he emailed in and is excused for today. Chief Hyde, I see you. Ed Kaminsky, I saw you. Andy King, did you join us? Chief King. Marshal Jonathan Lund, are you with us? Marshal Medina, Larry Medina. Okay, Marshal Nelson, I see you. Kelly Nicolello, I've got you. Tina, are you with us from Canadian? Okay. Marshal Toomey, I saw you. And Mark Wassom, did you join? Oh, there you are.
Hey, Carl, I'm here.
You got the mustache going for November, huh? Looking good.
Trying to be a real fire marshal.
There you go. All right. Let's see what we've got here in terms of numbers for you, Christine. So 2, 3, 6, 9. I think we're right on the cusp of having a quorum here too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Sorry, I'm having to do some manual counting here.
You start flipping off your shoes, we're in trouble.
Yep, we are. We do have a quorum. We're good.
Thank you so much. All right, our first order of business is we have a guest presentation today. Robert Solomon is with SLS Consulting out of Boston, and he is going to talk to us today about plan review, code enforcement, and artificial intelligence. So welcome, Robert. Thank you for being here, and I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Okay, thank you so much. So let me get the right thing to put on the screen. Did the slide deck come up on the screen okay?
Yeah, you're up.
Yes.
Okay, awesome, great. Yeah, so I appreciate the opportunity. I think some of you have seen this in different venues, maybe at the SUPDET conference in September, or if you were at AIA back in June. So this has kind of appeared in different ways over the past couple of months. So anyway, yeah, appreciate the opportunity. So I'm Robert. I'm actually in College Park today, University of Maryland, doing some stuff down here, but we still made technology work. So I'm going to talk to you about this project that SLS has. It's a joint effort with a joint venture with another South Florida-based company, Toggle AI, and the product that we're developing, the software platform, is called codecomply.ai, and that's our website domain and everything. So this has been in the works for about 2 years now. We're actually in beta testing with one fire department in Florida and an architectural firm in New York City. So I'm going to kind of walk through some background and history, and then kind of what this is intended to do and what it doesn't do. So we're going to look at some things that you all do on a daily basis, right? This is sometimes tailored for architects who don't understand the pressures that code officials are under, and then kind of how we want to try to leverage technology to come up with some ways to supplement your workflow and things like that. So one of the things we do is to kind of do some setting with regards to terminology. And Carl, I will share the PDF of the PowerPoint deck if you want to distribute it to the group later on. But we always kind of like to make sure that people know, we hear about AI on, online stories or on TV or the radio, whatever the case might be. And I think a couple really key things is that AI is there to augment, right? It's not there to take our jobs. It's not there to replace. It's there to do some of the maybe the easier tasks that we have. And as AI gets smarter, it will be able to do some of the more complicated tasks as well. But really, it's there to be another tool, just like when we got away from reviewing paper plans and now we can review plans in PDF format, or when we had to use just a hand calculator to do all the math things. Now we can put that into an Excel spreadsheet, right? So none of these things took our jobs away. They made our jobs more efficient and then allowed us to kind of focus on some other things maybe that the computing world quite can't do for. So again, when I throw these terms out, this is kind of what I mean by AI or machine learning, image recognition or OCR. And these are just kind of the backbones of how AI works, right? This is kind of the background or the back end of the things that people don't see that kind of bring the whole notion of artificial intelligence together. So there's a couple of ways, right, to look at the plan review process. This was like a nice short explanation from the Indiana Department of Homeland Security, right? It's like I get the application, I upload a PDF of drawings and things like that. There's a permit fee. And then then the next day, right, the plans are approved and everything happens, right? No, that's not the way it goes. And so the architects and contractors, right, they have to be patient in this process. We'll see a couple reasons why these delays are there, waiting on plans to get reviewed. And then what happens when the architect or the design team hasn't done a good job, and then they have to go back for things to be redone, redrawn, other things addressed, and then resubmitted, right? So all these things kind of happen on a somewhat regular basis on many of our projects. So when you really start to look out broadly, right, we all live in the code world. I've lived in the code world when I worked for the federal government, and I worked at NFPA for 34 years. And now, right, I'm back to kind of doing building design and code analysis. But any of these things that either cause a change in the design of the building, whether the architect didn't deliver what the client thought they were getting, or the design package has flaws in it based upon code compliance, right? This article tells us that can account for an additional 30% of increase to the construction project. A lot of projects we work on at SLS, these are projects in the $100 million, $500 million range and up. So that is real money to the development team. And then if there's a delay in getting the building occupied, right, then there's lost revenue and things like that. If the building's not occupied, there's lost tax revenue for the jurisdiction. So there's this like big ripple effect if we're not a little bit better at how well we do it adhering to code compliant designs. So at SLS, that's one of the things that we do on a regular basis, right? We work with the architectural team, and then we do our thing to make sure that they've got a compliant design before it gets submitted. Probably even on occasion, there's an amendment to the code in the jurisdiction maybe that we missed or we overlooked, and it comes back. But even on the projects we're not involved in, we start to collect information, or even when we're doing the review for the architect, we start to see some typical things emerge. And most of the things is kind of a list that we've developed here, right? A lot of them kind of centered on means of egress, right? I've exceeded a travel distance, or I don't have the remoteness correct, or I don't have the right capacity. Then it can be, right, another challenge, right? Vertical openings are always difficult to navigate. Is it an atrium? Is it a convenience opening? Is it just an open stair? Exactly what is it? So all these things kind of start to get into different buckets. And, we've done a fair amount of work leading up to Code Comply AI in terms of what are some of the recurring things that we might be able to use AI for to help us solve or resolve a little bit. When we look historically at other things that potentially cause some of these delays on the review side, it's maybe sometimes a reluctance to embrace some of the technologies that are out there. So this report from 2008 by the NFPA Fire Protection Research Foundation talked about looking at things in jurisdictions where the code compliance was deemed to be effective, right? And what does that mean? It means that we do have ample resources to maybe do our on-site inspections. We have ample resources to do plan review in a timely manner. We have ample resources to do a re-review if necessary. And then, right, you can start to look at the data in those jurisdictions and say, like, yeah, with our buildings built since whatever year, they've been in compliance. The design process has worked pretty well. The owners hopefully are doing the requisite ITM and things like that. And then this report from ICC in 2014 said that there's a range of code officials in a window that are going to be retiring out. And if I recall, I think this trend was going to start in about 2018 and continue through about 2028 was kind of the anticipated window. And just like the skilled trades, right, we don't have as many people coming into this profession versus the number of people leaving or anticipated to leave in the next 5-6 years. So that trend is already underway, whether I'm a building code official, a fire code official, a fire marshal, whatever kind of AHJ hat I wear. And then the other workshop report from FPRF just kind of looked at using technology in broader ways to, again, facilitate, enhance, make more efficient the whole fire protection or fire prevention plan review process. And this is about the time we were starting to talk about notions like remote inspections. And we're starting to see more jurisdictions morph into doing online plan review instead of the architect bringing the big set of drawings in. So we kind of have these things merging along the way. Our colleagues over at MIT said, what is it that makes something like AI in general, and then specifically when we look at it, what we're developing our AI platform for, why is the timing good now? Haven't people tried this before? And the answer is yes, they have tried it before, and the limitations have been basically some combination of these 5 things here. So a part of it are items like, the concept of edge computing, where we can now push boundaries of what our computing power is able to do. Right before we maybe couldn't quite get there. We have software systems that are linked globally. Right. We have cloud computing because now I don't have to be sitting at a desktop with all the information. Everything is residing at some remote point somewhere. So that's one of the things that MIT says is that's put us here. And then really what got us here when we look at the technology is this concept of Moore's law, number of transistors on a microchip. And what Moore said, that doubles about every 2 years. So we see this cluster up here, and that means that my computing power availability is really increased, right? The speed is increased. And that speed is measured by this other thing that the computer science people talk about, the floating operating points per second. This is really the number of mathematical equations that our current computers can do right now. And what's interesting about this is really based upon kind of the whole notion of artificial intelligence. And we see this isn't something that just started in 2022 when a lot of people heard about it. This really starts back in the late 1940s, late 1950s. So this combination of increasing computer power is this direct correlation then to the speeds at which information can be processed and the types of information, the types of data that we have out there. So with Code Comply AI, it basically is good at doing a couple of things, right? It's good at looking at areas, detecting objects, and that's that concept of image recognition, right? It can look at a set of plans and then it can determine, oh, that looks like a stair, that looks like a corridor, that looks like a toilet, so therefore that must be a bathroom. So it can start to make some of these judgments along the way, and the information on a plan is a form of data, right? We look at it and we see a stair, we see a handrail, we see a fire alarm component, we see a sprinkler. Those are all considered data points for AI because it says like, oh, that's something I need to know about. And once I know what that is, then there's probably a rule back in the code that's going to tell me something about that. So the approach we've taken then is to kind of look at how this kind of numerical stuff fits with AI and how AI is actually pretty good at determining a number of things like that. And we'll see here in a minute that it's going to be based on the use of PDF files. So some things that AI and machine learning or machine language, the things they like numbers. They like being able to detect objects on the plan. Like I said, sprinklers, pull stations, exit signs, emergency lighting fixtures, corridors, bathroom fixtures, things like that. And then, right, it likes numbers. It loves to do math. That's what it's good at. So if you think it's going to take your job away, it's not, because these are the things it doesn't like at the moment, right? It doesn't like making judgments, right? It either says it's right or it's wrong. So in the code, maybe the travel distance rule is 20 feet and the design says 21 feet, right? Am I going to fail a plan for that? I might. Or I might say that's pretty close. AI is dumb. It just says, the rule is 20, you're 21, you fail. So there are things, right, that we're all going to still have to do with respect to our plan review and our design process along the way. So the information that Code Comply is looking for, right, it has to know a couple of basic things about, project location. The most important thing is, right, it's got to know what code, what edition of the NFPA code or the ICC code is in effect. We are tweaking that now to deal with the state and local amendments, which is a kind of a big deal, but we know that's important. Few jurisdictions adopt any of these codes without some amendments. We need a PDF. And then it's getting better actually at identifying spaces, right? The more plans that it sees, the better it's getting at figuring out, oh yeah, that does look like a hotel as opposed to an apartment building or a condominium. So, but again, there are inputs there for the user to kind of load that information in up front. And then once it has that, we're going to see a quick video demonstration here if it works. We're going to kind of see how it vectorizes all that information and then kind of gets us to what we're looking for. So in a process like this, the question is, well, why aren't you using Revit, right? That's a question from the architects. And we said, because the architects use Revit, right? And the architects use AutoCAD. And the architects also use PDF. If we look at the other entities that are interested in this, right, the developer is going to have PDF. The MEPs, the engineers, and the consultants are going to have probably AutoCAD and PDF. Contractors deal with PDFs a lot, but they're starting to migrate a little bit into this category. And then, right, the plan reviewers, I don't think anybody's ready for, the ability to receive Revit files at this point in time. So we said the lowest common denominator that everybody's going to use is going to be a PDF file. So our first go at Code Comply AI is going to use PDFs to get us to that point. So you're used to some of the, many jurisdictions, right? You're used to these online permit software programs. So we've been working closely with a number of those groups like ePermit Hub, Acela, YouGov, right? A number of those firms. So we want to make sure that this will work with the existing software that many jurisdictions are utilizing along the way. So there's going to be some user input information. I touched on a couple of those items. And then what the AI does, it takes all that and it converts it into this JSON file. It's a JavaScript file. And what it does is it is taking all that stuff it sees on the PDF drawing and it's converting it into a data point, right? It's taking the scale and then figuring out measurements. It's identifying those objects to distinguish them, like the stair from a corridor, from a doorway, and things like that. So that all gets converted into data points, and then the magic happens, or the math happens to start. So a couple of the things that our beta version is doing right now is, I said it does what we call, it vectorizes every polygon that it sees on the plan. So it is distinguishing where the architect has subdivided a room or space. It knows that there's this space that looks a little bit different, and the more plans it reviews, the smarter it gets to figure out, like, oh, that's the corridor, and then this is the guest room or the dwelling unit, or whatever the case might be. So we talk about vectorizing. That's what it's doing. It's finding all the kind of available polygons, and the challenge it has is it has to know what's the difference between an architectural line versus a dimension line, right? And it's actually getting very good at that. If I did this 8 months ago, it would have been giving me it would have told me that the building was out here in space somewhere. But the more plans it sees and reviews, the better it gets. It can do pathfinding and wayfinding, right? Kind of like on my Google Maps, right? I'm going to start over here, and for some reason, I want to know what that measurement is, right? And the codes, we're interested in measurements from somewhere within the room or space, and then we've taught it to, if we don't have any furniture layout or content layouts, we teach it to walk along the walls at 90-degree turns, and then about the waypoints, right, to the dwelling unit door, to the point where the common path of travel ends. And then from there, we wanted to continue to measure down to where the exit might be, right? So it's good at things like common path of travel, finding dead ends, measuring travel distance provisions, and things like that. It's good at helping me determine or do a quick evaluation on remoteness of exits. Again, the vectorization is what do those
figured out,
what-
like the battery.
I'll capture that for you here in a second, Bob.
are we okay here?
Yep, we're good. I think somebody's just got an open mic that I'm going to mute. For you.
Okay. Okay. All right. Sorry. I didn't try to ask a question or what. So right. Good at, doing this. So right. Everything I'm showing you, right. It's all math in the code. So I'm going to go through part of this video that we do, that we show. And so again, the first thing it does once the plan is uploaded, then the AI component is now doing all this vectorization, then finding all these polygons, and then it starts to distinguish. So this is a building that we made up. It's got some apartments in it. It has a small yoga room. It's got a big conference room in it. It's got a business center. So it's kind of trying to figure out, like, oh, there's something I see in that business center, like the word business. So that sounds like that would be group B, right? That'd be group B by the IBC or IFC. And then if it's not labeled, it's going to try to make some intelligent guesses. Like if it sees a bunch of tables and chairs, it can probably get us to that. Looks like that's probably assembly, but I'm not quite sure. Is it which group A is it? Is it a restaurant? Is it a conference space? Whatever the case might be. And then it starts to look at, some of these different measurement parameters that we put in here. And like I said, on one hand, the AI is very smart. It's very fast, but it's also very dumb. If we're reviewing this plan and we're trying to figure out the, after we calculate the occupancy load here, if we're trying to figure out something like the egress capacity or the travel distance, what we're going to do is people, right? We're going to kind of eyeball and say that place in the middle looks like that's the worst case. And I might do a measurement with my blue beam tool or whatever measurement tool I happen to utilize. I said AI is dumb because it's not able to make that judgment. So it has to measure every worst case from every space on the floor plan. But it can do that in a matter of seconds, right? If we did every space in the simple little floor plan, it would probably take us 30 minutes, maybe longer, right? Because I'm checking on common path, I'm checking on travel distance, and then I'm flagging any dead ends that I might run across. So, right, AI is very good, very smart in one sense, but again, there's one of those judgments it can't make. And since it can't make the judgment, it's going to check every one of those rooms and spaces, but it's going to do it in, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, whatever the case might be. So this is what the program is set up to do, right? Everything it's doing is math right now, right? Once it figures out what the occupancy is, we back and feed just the numbers from the code for the occupant load factors. It can do that. And then once it finds the stairs, it's getting better at measuring the distance between the stringers on the stairs and then applying the appropriate egress capacity factor for the stairs or for the doors or whatever the case might be. So, this is kind of what we end up with here. In our example here, what we do here, again, just to show some examples, we change the use of this one space from residential to assembly, and then we ask it to kind of recalculate that, and it says like, wow, I've got more than 50 people in there. I need 2 exits. So again, it's flagging the things that are going to fail the code test, right? These are things that we do manually right now. But that's just some of the examples of what we have this doing along the way. So kind of in summary, we right now have it running about 25 of these tests you see on this Excel spreadsheet. This sheet hasn't been updated since about early September, but we have about 25 tests running here, and everything you see here, right? It's kind of pretty much it's all math based. There's a couple of exceptions, like it knows at what point the door has to swing in the direction of egress travel. But when I look at other things like exit signs, it's identifying exit signs, but it also knows, right, there's a rule that says I've got to have an exit sign visible within 100 feet of any point I happen to be standing at in the hallway or some point in the building. So those are the things that it's looking for. It's starting to do some accessibility tests here for for the wheelchair clearances and turn radiuses. So once again, those things that are number related, numerical based, that are quantitative in the code, that's what it's really good at right now. So this list has 28 items. The big list has over 200 on it. And we think once we get through kind of where we are at this point, when we hopefully launch for our revenue product sometime in late Q1 or Q2 of 2024, we anticipate we're going to have at least 100 of these tests that it will be able to run. So, right, it's not going to be perfect with everything. It's going to have some, like it would have no idea what to do with that, nor would I as a fire protection engineer, or a code consultant. Other things that are relatively recent, back in July, we did get API's application program interface licenses from both NFPA and ICC, because right now what you see in some of the outputs, it will tell you like, this is what I measured, this is what the code allowance is, right? I measured 225 feet. The code allowance is 200 feet, and therefore you fail. But there's no context to that, right? We just know that 200 feet is the rule for a group R2. I'm making that up right now. But so there's no context. The API, if somebody elects to get that right, they'll be able to click on that provision and then get the paragraph from the code to see it in context. Well, it's what do you mean it's wrong? I know it's maximum is 200. You said it's 225 in the measurement. Now I can get the code text there if I elect to go that route. And we think that's important because not only is this to facilitate the plan review process for AHJs, it's also going to be a good tool for the architecture.
Robert, you're on mute. Bobby, put yourself on mute or something.
Oh, so I'm sorry about that. I was almost at the end, so I don't know what I'm sure it was me. I hit a wrong button somewhere.
No
But anyway,
worries.
I was kind of in the wrap-up phase there. But again, the idea is that the architects can also benefit from using this. So, that's another one of the audience folks we're looking at. And then we also have been working with UL to, whenever on, say, a deferred submittal, like for fire alarm or sprinkler, and the fire alarm drawing calls out a certain model number, right? We should be able to use the object or image detection to find that product number, model number, and then link it back to the UL product IQ information. And then again, the integration and the compatibility with the online software platform companies that are out there, instead of trying to come up with our own. So, going a lot of different directions here. It's a pretty exciting project to be working on. Again, we've got some of the basic information on our codecomply.ai website. And that is kind of what I wanted to give you the rundown on today. So I don't know if you all have any time for questions, or if you have any questions or any follow-up. My contact information is there, and we also have a contact email at the Code Comply AI website as well. So
I don't know if you're.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So the lady I've been
Very
working with
informative,
at
very
ICC,
interesting.
yeah, for years.
I'd like to open it up to the group. If you have any questions, if you want to raise your hand, and I will call on you in the order received.
Christine, there was
Kelly?
a question in the chat already too, after Kelly's done with his question.
Okay. Why don't we do Kelly first, and then we'll go into the chat.
Hey, Robert, good presentation. I've been bragging on
Thanks,
this,
man.
quite honest. So you might get some more business coming your way for people wanting to know what you guys are doing. The second thing is I've used the Chat GPT to start doing outlines for articles and PowerPoints, just on basic subjects regarding fire prevention and whatnot. And I did one on like CO, and it knocked it out. It did an article, a one-page article, inside of about 2 seconds, and it was all correct. It wasn't in the depth I would like it, but I could go back and retune my question, and it would reaccomplish the article again. And so I end up with a real viable draft inside of about 5 minutes. And whereas that wouldn't be the case, grammatically correct, by the way, and I wouldn't have to deal with that. So I thought that's really, really good as far as another version of where we're headed in the fire service for dealing with AI in general. But good presentation. I want to thank you for being here.
Yeah, and that's a great point. Another project we actually have two, because what we've done is with the Code Comply team, right? We've got software developers and programmers, like, and when I'm around them, I feel like the biggest idiot in the world, right? Like I know the code stuff, and then we have to put it into a version where that they can understand to program it. And I have no idea how they do that, but they do it, and like they're awesome. And then another part of our team, they are working on a ChatGPT 4 version that would allow me to query things about the plan set and the code, right? So that is coming. I don't know that that's going to be ready for launch until probably the middle of 2024, but it's a good thing. One thing I would warn everybody on that uses ChatGPT is there's two versions. If you use the normal public version, that information is not protected by copyright. That becomes free domain for anybody to take. And there's a big U.S. multinational company that learned that the hard way last year when they used it to develop their 5-year strategic plan, and somebody found it, and it didn't go over too well with their executives. So, just what you're using it for, just keep in mind there are two versions, right? We have the licensed Microsoft version that does protect it, right? It goes behind a firewall, and it is copyright protected. But just a word of warning on that. But you're right, Kelly. I've done the same thing. I've put in like some code questions, and sometimes it comes back with a completely wrong answer, but it's an answer I would expect somebody that just started in the business to come up with. So it's wrong, but it's not like terribly wrong. So yeah, lots of interesting stuff going on here. So.
Using the image generators is also kind of interesting too. I can tell it to develop a picture that has people in it, but I don't have to worry about a release because of the picture, because the computer is generating the people that do not exist anywhere else but in data space. And so I can say, show me a UL employee that it'll develop that up, working on a alarm device or something like that.
Right.
And it'll generate that in a matter of seconds. And then I can use that in my presentation if I chose to. And, don't have to worry about the licensing issue.
Excellent.
Great. Okay, we have a question in the chat. Is this program planned for other aspects of the code like storage, energy systems, radio signal strength, and hydraulic calculations?
The first two, probably not. The question about hydraulic calculations is interesting because that actually came up. We had a discussion on that back in June, and it's kind of like, I'm going to be using like a computer program to check a computer program, right? So where it can help though, where it can help with sprinkler design, for example, it is going to be like with spacing, right? To make sure that I don't exceed whatever the, spacing between sprinklers or branch lines or distance from walls. So it will be good at doing that. But, for it to, right, it would be like checking the hydraulic software program, right? So I don't know that it would be smart enough to figure out that that node, the balance wasn't done or the friction loss wasn't right. So for something like that, for things like ESS, right, where it could have utility, it wouldn't necessarily be the code comply part I just went over. It would be the ChatGPT part where I could query it about, I have this size enclosure. I have this battery storage size. I have them on racks. So I could maybe start to use it to get some basic design stuff together, maybe. But in terms of, the checking part, it would be the things in the IFC or NFPA1 or NFPA 855 that do have like right in the spacing criteria, things like that. But again, it's not able to make a judgment about, does it have the right battery management system in it, for example. But again, I might be able to query it and say, this is kind of outside the realm of what the codes cover. Did this go through the 8540A testing or whatever the case might be? So I could use the ChatGPT function for maybe some things like that. So.
Great. Allison, you have a question.
Hi, good morning. Thank you so much for the presentation today. This is a really interesting part of our industry. Two questions. One, when you get the results out of this, let's say something simple like your horizontal exit or your travel distance for the horizontal distance, is that generating, you said that's going to reference the code sections. Is that going to also generate some kind of image for me as a plan reviewer that says like, hey, the horizontal distance is 200 feet and, the exit separation is only 10 feet. Yeah. And then I can check that against an image, or how am I seeing what the review or whatever you want to call this? It's kind of hard to call it a review,
sure,
but
yeah.
what you're generating.
Right. Yeah. Great question. I think I did glance over that. So that is, so it will generate a report for me, right? And it will tell me, it will tell me like at what point it found this. And what it's also going to do is it will highlight where that is when you still have the PDF open, right? So I'll see kind of on that right side, I'll see what it generated, the errors it found, and then those will be highlighted on the plan on the kind of the center and left side of the screen.
And so I can see like, oh, hey, it thought this was an exit, but it's not an exit, and
right.
Or those sorts of judgment calls. Okay. And then my other question, right. Are you guys thinking about a version of this product? One of the biggest problems we have in Arlington is we get people who want to open a daycare or want to open a restaurant, and then they find out they need to be sprinklered or they need 2 exits. Are you looking at eventually bringing to market something for your small business owner to like put a basic floor plan in and say like, this is retail now and I want to make it a restaurant and give them a real quick high level, hey, you may want to think twice. You're going to have to sprinkler this or something along those lines?
Good idea, but no. The scale again, the scale we're looking at, it really is going to be really for, like I said, the AHJ, developer, architect, MEP. I think that's a nice idea, but that's not the scale of where we think this would really be helpful. But right, it's kind of like a lot of the building departments, they've got like, hey, I want to replace the deck on my house or put a new deck on, right? And it gives me some of the fundamental things there. But then you start getting into those other, right? Because I mean, is that small business? Are they going to know what the building construction type is, right? Are they even going to know what the sprinkler system looks like in there, or if it has it or doesn't have it? So yeah, I like the idea, but that's not where that's not the area we're looking at right now.
Great. Anyone with any other questions? All right, not seeing any other hands raised. Robert, thank you again for your time. We appreciate you making the time. It's exciting stuff. We're starting to see a lot more about it, and this was very informative to kind of get down to actually what we would see as plan reviewers. So thank you again for being here.
Okay. All right. Right. Okay. Appreciate it. I'll have a great day. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
All right, moving on our agenda. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda? Hearing none. Next item is the approval of the minutes. This would be for the October 11th in-person meeting. I'm looking for a motion to approve.
Motion to approve, Doug Nelson.
Second, Lund.
Great. Any discussion? Calling a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Bye.
Opposed? Great. Thank you very much. The minutes are approved. Going into our work group update. Nice shout out, Doug. Going into our work group updates, member engagement, Brian.
Yep. So I don't have a whole lot to report. Working on still a last presenter for our meeting in December. Obviously, I don't think Robert signed off, but obviously an interesting topic for today. So I'm glad that we were able to work out with him to come on and share some of the exciting stuff happening. I'm probably going to cancel our meeting next week with the Thanksgiving holiday. Our next meeting typically it would be next Thursday, but I'm not going to be in the office. So our next meeting, just trying to look at the calendar here real quick, should be Tuesday, December the 19th for the membership work group. The plan for that meeting is to get things set up and going for 2024 with regard to the calendar schedule, presenters, and membership engagement. That's all I have.
Great, thank you very much, Brian. Emerging issues and trends. Michael Desrochers couldn't be here, as we said at the beginning of the meeting. He needed to cancel their work group meeting this month, so we'll get an update from him next month. Public awareness, Kelly.
Well, I failed to meet my own meeting last time and due to travel and stuck at an airport in a place where I really couldn't be a part of it. So my apologies for those who showed up and I wasn't there. With that being said, there's not a lot to report, but Carl, if you're listening, you and I need to talk and see how to move stuff out of the queue to marketing and get stuff going out. We've kind of got articles in the queue ready to go, but at the moment there's no leading out of the funnel out to the public as we need to do. So if we can talk this week, preferably, or the beginning of next week, that would be great. I haven't decided what I'm going to do about the next meeting. Again, I think I run afoul of our meeting date because I'll be on vacation somewhere in the Caribbean when that's to occur. And so I'm out of pocket for a good part of the month of December and beginning in January. So we'll deal with that. And at the same time, agenda-wise, one of the next things we'll be talking about is our plans for 2024 and moving forward with that. So that if that is considered to be a report, that concludes it.
Thank you very much. Training and education, Mark.
Thanks, Christine. Just a couple updates today. We do have things still moving forward on our webinar plan that we've been working on. Been working with the training and education folks with ICC. They're working us into the Learn Live schedule for next spring. So I need to get with our presenters that we're going to work on the carbon monoxide webinar we had discussed to get the date nailed down. And then I think beyond that, we're going to try to just get a regular appearance in the Learn Live program to continue to give fire safety, life safety related training courses for that. So more to come, but that is moving forward again now that we've got the annual business meeting behind us. The only other update I think I'll mention is our next meeting will be on December 4th. That would be at 2 p.m. Central Time via Teams. So definitely reach out if you want to be interested. We'll work on our plan for next year and kind of wrap up our report for what we've worked on this year. And then we'll discuss some of the webinars and other things we might push forward to try to get in front of folks for training and education next year. So I think that's all I've got.
Great, thank you very much. Further reports, our board liaison director, Randy Metz. Hi, Randy.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for, again, a great turnout, great meeting, and a very interesting topic from Mr. Solomon there. Not a lot to report this time, obviously, coming out of our annual conference. Want to give a couple shout outs to Mark Wassom, outstanding work with our education process right there. I really want to commend Fire Service Membership Council for engaging our training and education division and trying to assist them in bringing forward some quality educational opportunities for the fire service. Without you guys, I don't know that we would be really bringing forward much right now in the education side. So you guys are really pushing that forward, and that's being recognized there. Congratulations to a couple award winners. Rob Diehl, who many of us know and have worked with, formerly with ICC, was named the Educator of the Year Award. Rob has been hitting it hard in providing a lot of educational opportunities, seminars, and he'll be out in California next March doing some more work for us at CFPI. So great to see Rob recognized there. And then this year's Robert W. Gain Award winner, Greg Rogers, who many of us have worked with. We call him Mr. CRR. But Greg was a very worthy recipient of the Gain Award that the Membership Council did write a letter of support for. So, not too soon to start thinking about next year on who you guys would like to promote and really try to recognize those leaders that have contributed considerably and are worthy of such type of recognition. So that'll come out in the spring. So you've got about 4 or 5 months to land on a name and possibly reach out to some of your peer groups on supporting a single name there, if you can find one. We will have our December board meeting first week of December. So we'll be really setting the platform for the upcoming year in 2024. President Stuart Tom is already hitting it hard right now. He just got back from 2 or 3 weeks that he spent over in Australia and New Zealand in our Oceania office with our CEO. and Judy Sekreski and Ryan Kolker. We did open an office there, probably about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And we are really starting to see a lot of meetings with government officials on where ICC can assist those countries in Oceania there. And I was with Stuart at our Birmingham office in Alabama the last 2 days, as I'm on the budget committee, where we got a lot of great updates on where ICC is. Not a whole lot of involvement with the fire service in Australia from those discussions, but shows that they are definitely open to looking at ICC and seeing what ICC can offer them as we move forward there. If you have any, questions whatsoever, I know one of the hot topic items is going to be the email that went out regarding CP28. We are in a public comment period right now. I highly recommend that anybody that has anything to say on what they've read on the changes to CP28 enter information into the website so that those public comments can be gathered. There will likely be an update coming in the very near future regarding the information that was initially sent out. So look for that. There'll be some clarifying information there, but the board is very actively seeking input through the process that was developed for public comment. That is open till December 9th. So you have until then to make any comments, positive, negative, changes. How does this affect you? We would definitely want to hear that, and you may want to wait at least until the addendum does come out before you actually submit your comments, because it may change how you feel on the issue there. Other than that, I have nothing further to add. Hopefully at our December meeting, after our December board meeting, I'll have more information for us as we prepare for the Group A code hearings. And I hope to see you all in Orlando. Hopefully you're already making arrangements in your budget to be part of the Group A code hearings. And we look forward to getting at it again. That's it for my report, and I can answer any questions anybody may have.
Yes, Kelly.
Kelly?
Hello, Randy. Just quick question. Is there an update on the ESS ad hoc?
Yes. So that committee, we did have a virtual board meeting on Tuesday. That ad hoc committee was approved, and that information will be coming out shortly. People will be notified of their official appointment there. I don't know if that'll be coming out through Russ Manning's office or Carl directly. They still have some discussion to make, but that board action did occur, and we now have an actual committee, a chair and a vice chair.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Randy?
Will that committee be notified that they're on, or they already have? And if you didn't receive your notification, then
Yes, ma'am.
No,
So,
nobody's been notified yet, but they
fine.
will be notified. Like I said, the board just took the action on Tuesday. So there will be something coming, and if you were selected, you will be notified by our ICC Technical Services Department.
fantastic. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Randy. I don't see, maybe Randy and Carl can help me. I don't see any other directors on the call.
I didn't see any either.
Okay. Next, report from the chair. I don't have any other comments other than items that are further down in the agenda. A report from Vice Chair Tim Diehl.
Thanks. Yeah, I didn't get a chance to look at the agenda, and I apologize for that. So, the building membership, I saw Tom put it in the chat that their meeting will be coming up, and then working still with the continuity and outreach and see how that committee changes. Charter review. The document is being prepared. It's now being kind of placed into, well, it's being combined with council policies. So there'll be more to come on that. Allison may have more to talk on that later on in the program, but that's all I got right now.
Great, thank you very much. The staff liaison report, Carl.
Good afternoon, good morning to some of you. Good to see everybody, and it has been busy. So thank you to Randy for clearing a couple of items off of my list here today on the ICC Pulse on the CP28 cost impact supplemental guidance in the comment period for that. I can tell you that I put that in the chat. If you haven't seen it yet, just go there and there's a link directly to it with all the information that we just talked about. And just following up on what Randy said, we're really just getting organized to make some notifications here on the battery and energy storage ad hoc committee. Typically, that's a fairly quiet process in that I just want folks to understand that if names have been submitted and selected, oftentimes we have folks, this happens with our code development committees and other appointed positions as well, that folks have life happen and may need to back out. So we generally reach out, we confirm that they're still available, make those appointments, and then once the roster is full, if there are any backups we need to go to, we do that and then make the official notification in a more public way. So give us a little bit of time to get on that, and we will certainly get the information out. First and foremost for everybody, we are talking FEMA Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities program. If you haven't heard or seen anything from us yet, you're probably not signed up for our social media or our email, or you probably haven't spoken with our government relations regional representatives yet, because it's been job number one for us since this was released just under a month ago. Let me tell you what we're doing, what it's all about, and why it's important. So, and Crystal, I just saw your note in there. You're saying you're having trouble with that link to the Pulse. Is that right? I can drop it in the chat again really quick. Hold on.
It says can't be reached. Might be on my end.
All right, yeah, I'm looking at it here, so I just dropped it in again for you. Hopefully that helps. All right, so FEMA BRIC, let's talk about this for a second. So why is this important this year? A lot of folks know about FEMA's BRIC program, but this year what's really important is that there is what's called a Building Codes Plus Up, which is essentially a set aside specifically designed for building code related projects. So out of FEMA BRIC, I'll give you a little bit of history. So over the last several years, FEMA started out funding building code related projects and also making sure that building codes were front and center in terms of the scoring for the national projects, which is technically kind of called the national competition pot of money that's out there. So building codes matter in BRIC, both in that they're an eligible activity under capability capacity building, which is one side of BRIC, and then the other bucket is the national competition, where building codes are part of the scoring matrix for applications for those projects. Folks have had, some mixed reactions, particularly in the middle of the country, to how the building code scoring has either supported or affected negatively their ability to be able to compete in the national competition. So FEMA has essentially turned around and said, okay, you know what we're going to do? We're going to make building codes even more important at this point and more available. And they're doing a set aside this year. So the history being is that FEMA capability and capacity building under BRIC started out at about $650,000 per state and territory, and then a carve out for tribal governments when the program first started. Over the years, that grew from 650,000 to $1 million to now 2 million for the past 2 years. And going into FY23, it's again funded at 2 million per state territory, and there's also a carve out for tribal governments as well too. In addition to that money, where FEMA building codes related projects or building code related projects under FEMA BRIC are eligible, is now a separate pot of money, which is equal to what was set aside for capability and capacity building. So for FY23 in the building code plus up section of FEMA BRIC, there's $137 million in federal cost share directly set aside for building code related projects. That breaks down to $2 million per state and territory, and there's another $25 million that are being set aside for tribal governments. Why is this important to the Fire Service Membership Council? Because not only are building code departments eligible for this, but also fire marshals' offices and fire prevention officials who do codes are absolutely eligible applicants or sub-applicants for these types of projects. So what are we doing about it so far? Well, we have really set out with the mindset of trying to get 100% subscription as much as we can, state by state and territory, and trying to get into the tribal government realm as much as we possibly can, because we view this as potentially a one-year effort. There has been some talk that it may extend into another year or so, but we're looking at this as a one-time opportunity. We want to make sure we, as the International Code Council, are doing everything possible that we can to get folks interested and subscribed to this. And a lot of the reaction that we're getting back from our partners in the field at the state level is that, you know, if you apply, you have a very likely, high likelihood of being able to get this money. It comes across at a 75-25 cost share in general, 75% of that being funded by the federal government, 25% of that being on the applicant at the state and the local level to be able to match. But I will tell you that it was important enough that I penned off letters directly to the state emergency management directors in all states and territories, our tribal nation representatives, and then all of their state hazard mitigation officers. Also, I sent an email out through the executive director, Butch Browning, at the National Association of State Fire Marshals, and also sent this over to IASC's Fire and Life Safety section, highlighting this opportunity. So what we've done so far, beyond those letters and talking with our state and regional partners, we hosted a webinar on November the 9th. When I get done with my update, I'll go ahead and post some links to you in the chat. So the webinar was held. We had FEMA's branch chief for the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities program on, along with Secretary of Emergency Management in Maryland, Russ Strickland. Russ is also the sitting president of the National Emergency Management Association, or NEMA. So he leads all of the state directors in the country, and he's an enormous friend of the fire service. He comes from the fire service to emergency management, having spent a bulk of his career there in the state of Maryland in the fire service before going into emergency management. So anyway, great webinar. Aaron Davis, my colleague, and Stella Carr, my colleague, spent some time hosting that. For those of you who haven't met Aaron is our federal affairs representative and deals with all things federal and on the Hill. Stella has been brought on in a capacity to essentially help with raising awareness around all grants, not just FEMA grants, but also very heavily into the energy grants that are available too. We're all available to be able to help answer your questions. The webinar takes care of a lot of that. And even in some certain limited cases, we'll be glad to provide some technical assistance and guidance on how to be able to access these funds. For example, I can tell you, I'm sorry that Michael Desrochers isn't on here today, but I know that the state of Vermont has applied previously and won, and I believe that they did a training application that was funded. There are a few others as well. So there are some examples to draw from, is my point. The number one challenge that we're working against here too is that since this is new for building codes, it's kind of a new stakeholder audience for FEMA as well to integrate their fire and emergency management and building code official partners all together in this space. So the typical deadlines, FEMA has a deadline, an application deadline of February 29th, 2024. So for those of you who didn't know, next year's a leap year. So it's February 29th for the FEMA deadline. But most states and territories have, through their work with BRIC, backed up those deadlines so that they can organize and prioritize their sub-applications. In many instances, some of those are either right on us, or in a few cases, they've even passed. California being one of them in terms of having a notice of intent that's been due to Cal OES, who manages this. So we're working directly with the states and the territories and the tribes to be flexible. We've had some really good results, and the good news is, like I brought up California as an example, as soon as we spoke with their Cal OES reps, they were like, of course, you tell us who's interested in doing this, and we'll find ways to be able to make it work and get them the access to those dollars. So we've had some good success with that. One of the other big challenges, of course, is accessing tribes. So I would encourage folks on here that if you have contacts in the tribal realm, I would love to have your feedback and input about how we can access them more effectively. And we're also continuing through all of our available channels to be able to reach them. So building code and fire code officials. This means you. I will put the FEMA brick information from our website in the chat here shortly. Jonathan, I see your note. Have a good afternoon. So that's what I've got on brick so far. Next up is kind of this summary of, where the heck was Carl in October? Well, I found myself in, I think, like 4 or 5 different cities in October over about 3.5 weeks. So FEMA National Advisory Council met, and I sit as part of that. We met in Salt Lake City, Utah, and formulated our final inputs to the NAC's annual report, which was just published yesterday. Lots of really good building code takeaways in there. Very proud of, yeah, exactly. I see that, Kelly. I'm pretty proud of where the NAC stood on building codes this year and our advice given to the FEMA administrator and to the agency as a whole. So I will put a link to that, as well as a little bit more about the National Advisory Council for you in the chat here momentarily. So I was at the NAC meeting, then I went straight to the NEMA annual forum, which was in Memphis. Had really great time there working with our emergency management partners at the state and federal levels, and then off to the ICC annual conference for about 24 hours. Turned right back around from St. Louis, came back to my car in Washington, D.C., and headed up to the U.S. Fire Administrators Summit on Fire Prevention and Control up in Emmitsburg at the National Fire Academy. We were supposed to have the president in person this year, which was going to be a huge get. But I mean, they had the Secret Service was out doing all their advance work for about 1.5 weeks, 2 weeks before the event. We had press risers, we had seats taken out of the auditorium. There was a lot of prep work, and unfortunately, all the terrible things that happened over in the Middle East with Israel and Palestine really got in the way of the president being able to attend the event. But he did still join us by video teleconference. So it was great to have him there. We had the Secretary of Homeland Security, the FEMA administrator, and then national security representatives from the White House staff joining us again for the 2nd year in a row. So overall, a really great conference. There was a book published that is not out and available online, but I will show it to you to prove to the group that it exists. But inside that, we do have a report out on codes and standards from the work group that I worked on, along with Michael Desrochers, Mike O'Brien, Sean DeCrane, Shane Ray, and others coming out of last year's summit. So we've got a good accomplishments document that I will certainly share when it's published electronically, and also lots of great information that came out on codes and standards and where we're headed in the future as part of the Fire Administrator Summit and leveraging Congress to be able to act on many of the recommendations that have come out of that important meeting. So from there, I would want to put a little bit of focus on the state of California. I know Crystal's on, and I wanted to just pass on some news that the Office of the State Fire Marshal has again started up the WUI work group that has been working to take a look at integrating in portions of the IWUIC, or the Wildland Urban Interface Code, into its Chapter 7A and Chapter 49 provisions in California. So we're working on that and foot on the gas again after several months of a break. Thank you for that, Crystal, and hopefully we'll bring that to some conclusion here at the beginning of the year next year in terms of what you'll need to get that in front of the Building Standards Commission and some of the work that you'll have to do from your office to keep that moving. But thank you for that. So glad to be participating in that, and thanks for the opportunity. In November, it quieted down a little bit, actually got away on some vacation for a week, but came right back and worked with our FEMA counterparts in the building science realm. They had the many reps from headquarters and all of the regions came in, and we met at the National Conservation Training Center up in Shepherdstown, West Virginia for the last couple of days. And as part of that, I want to report out some significant progress to do with the FEMA U.S. Fire Administration relationship. Part of that and part of what we've been working on as this work group coming out of the Administrator Summit is advancing the recognition of the fire service and then fire service related hazards within larger FEMA, right? So one of the biggest complaints that folks have had about big FEMA over the years has been that, you know, they're certainly attuned to wind and flood and other natural hazards like seismic. But, you know, where is fire, right? So we've done a lot to be able to move that relationship forward. I know that the fire administrator and the deputy fire administrator, Chief Hoover, are very excited that that relationship is really starting to form and move forward. So with that, FEMA Building Science has pledged a full-time building science representative to sit at the United States Fire Administration in Emmitsburg. So many of you have heard us talk about each of the FEMA regions getting a building science or building codes representative. In each of the FEMA regions, there are about 4 or 5 of them that are in place out of the 10 regions so far. And then now there's going to be an announcement coming out for a building science representative to work on code related issues and other physical science related issues directly sitting in the fire academy in the fire administrator's office. So that's a huge get for us. Also, in the next year, we're spinning up a project to create an addendum to FEMA's building code saves document. It was a nationwide study on losses avoided that was published in 2020. Had lots on many different hazards in there that we have information on, but nothing on structural fires and nothing on wildland urban interface fires. Now we will be performing an addendum to that report that will address those 2 very important issues and the fire service in general moving forward. So that's some good progress. I will tell you that Shane Ray was the chair of this codes and standards work group that it came out of the Fire Administrator Summit last year. There's a passing of the baton that's taking place right now, where Shane is passing the baton to why am I drawing a blank on his name? It's been one of those days so far. Sean DeCrane from the IAFF will now be the chair of the Codes and Standards Work Group for the end of 2023 and into 2024. So we're glad to have Sean at the helm there and leading the way. So that's my report. Lots going on here. Sorry, I'd been kind of in and out and absent in terms of these meetings and so forth for the last couple of months with all the travel, but I wanted to have you all rest assured that there's a lot of great progress that's been happening out there in the field that benefits this group and all of our members. So that's what I've got, Christine, unless there's any questions.
Any questions for Carl? Great. Thank you for that report, Carl. Hopefully you're able to hang out at home for a little while. Sleep in your own bed for a little while. So, but thank you for all of that work that you're doing.
Of course.
Moving on to other reports, Building Membership Council. I know Tom Allen had to leave. I do see Mark Matheny, who is BMC's vice chair, on the call. Not to put you on the spot, Mark, but if you wanted to say a few words, we'd love to welcome you to do that.
Yeah, terrific. Thank you. I wouldn't have it any other way. Appreciate the opportunity. Always good to participate in this group. I too have not been able to catch up too much, so that's great. I'm actually on the road, so I'm going to keep it very brief. Great presentation, very timely as to what everything's looking like, and answered a lot of questions about why haven't we done this already. So very good. Building Membership Council wise, we're really excited about some of the new candidates that have come in, not candidates, but the new members who have come in this year. The last year's group is just getting ramped up and getting into their positions. And now we've got a whole new group of very energized people. So we're really looking forward to the future. And as Tim Diehl mentioned, am I still on? Sorry.
Yeah. Yes,
Okay.
you are.
Sorry, I thought it blanked out. As Tim Diehl mentioned, looking forward to the evolution of CNO, and then just what the oversight council looks like, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mark, for being here. Continuity and Outreach Subcommittee, Tim Diehl. Did we lose Tim? I don't see Tim on the call anymore. So if he comes back on, we will.
He just posted that he had to go.
Oh, he did. Thank you very much. Too many screens I have open. All right, a Global Membership Council. I don't see Rock on the call. And then any other membership council representatives. I know Allison was here. If you're still here, that anyone that would like to say any words for your membership council?
So Allison Cook, I'm with ELMC until January, and then I'll be moving over to BMC. Very excited for the opportunity. ELMC is expecting to start up our vote for the codes and participate in the code change initiative. Vote for your codes was something that all of the membership councils signed a sort of supporting document. It was the first joint document resolution that all the membership councils had done. So I expect ELMC will be coming back to folks as we get into the Group A hearings. And I know there'll be some stuff that's really critical for fire with what's going to go forward in the building code change proposals and things. So hopefully we'll look for FSMC's support on continuing to promote that code change participation.
Great. Thank you very much, Allison, for being here. Anyone else? All right, moving on, ongoing business. As Tim just kind of briefly mentioned earlier, with Allison at the helm of all of the membership councils, we participated. Tim Diehl was our representative through the CNO committee to work on updating and kind of correlating or compiling all of our charters. Kind of took a different turn where the charter document is actually being incorporated into CP9, which is the details regarding committees and councils. So that is going before the board at the December meeting for those revisions. So we will keep you apprised as to how that meeting goes and if that gets approved, and kind of some changes and incorporations that we'll be doing as a result of that. So more to come on that. I don't know, Allison, if you had any other information. I think that's kind of where we're at. And then we'll be able to give more information later on. Great.
Yeah, I just did want to say thank you so much to Tim and to both you and the other folks who have provided comments. I think it's in a really good place, and I'm hopeful that the board will approve it in December. So thank you so much. The work Fire Service put in is really appreciated, and I think really helped us get to a good place where it
Great, thank you very much. All right, new business. So I just had one item. As we do every year, the chair and vice chair positions are open for election. So I am standing up the nominations committee for the elections of chair and vice chair. I've asked Brian Adams to chair that committee for this year, which he accepted. So thank you very much, Brian. He'll be reaching out to a couple of other members at his choosing. Typically, we try to get a wide range of representatives on this nominating committee. So with that being stood up, we will have elections of chair and vice chair at the December meeting. So hopefully everyone can attend for the governing committee to to vote on the chair and vice chair. Just on a personal note, I have had the privilege to chair the FSMC for 2 years now, and I've been really proud to do that. I've decided in efforts of trying to make sure that we keep current and have great participation within our governing committee members. I've decided not to put my name back into the hat for re-election for a third term. I'm looking forward to stepping back and being a general member and being able to support and participate as a general governing committee member. So the chair and vice chair positions are, at least from my position, is vacant going into 2024. So I know sometimes there's kind of reliances or assumptions that may be happening. So I just wanted to be upfront with everyone of kind of what my plans were. So we try to do a lot of succession training and planning, and I think we have done that more so in the last year to 18 months. So I'm looking forward to seeing how the elections turn out. So we'll put out a notice that of when you need to get that deadline in. I'm not quite sure, Carl, if it's something perhaps the first week of December to allow the subcommittee to, or the nominating committee to be able to meet and review the applications. If you're interested in either the chair or vice chair role as a governing committee member, please send to Carl your email of interest with your resume, and that would be forwarded to Brian and the nominating committee for review. Any questions about that? All right. Our next meeting is Thursday, December 14th, 1:30 Eastern, 10:30 Pacific. Now we are at the point of the agenda that we like to open it up to the group. Questions, comments, passing on information, anything that you have for good of the order. If you have anything, please raise your hand up in the room and I will call on you on the order received. So I'm looking for anyone that has any comments or questions. All right, not seeing anything. Wonderful. Before we adjourn, I just wanted to say thank you very much for being on the call today. Wishing you a very happy Thanksgiving with you and your family. And with that, I will look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Great.
Second.
Kelly. Great. Thanks, Brian. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll take that as a mass aye. Thank you, everybody. Have a good rest of your day and happy Thanksgiving, and we'll be chatting soon. All right, take care.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.